This is a great website called The Noise in Your Head, and it's Reed Wilson. He wrote another book called Stopping the Noise in Your Head, but this is his website, and this is a great resource both for us as practitioners as well as for patients to get a picture of what it looks like to face OCD using the exposure response prevention. And so I love to show this to my clients. The woman is the actor or the actress, and the man, he's the OCD. So he's impersonating how OCD is. And I will often tell my clients, start thinking of OCD as separate from you, because they're not intentionally trying to make themselves miserable. It's something that's happening. I think of it as a misfiring or a clicking in their brain that they're hearing all of the time, and we're wanting them to see it separately so that they can start facing it and standing up to it. They're not standing up to themselves, they're standing up to the clicking. So go ahead and play that for me, please, Lauren. Thank you.
Hey, what can I get you?
Hello, can I get a number 5, please? No jalapenos, no cheese. Do you have an E. coli-free option?
No lettuce.
Cool. You want anything? Some lettuce?
I'm good, thanks.
517, first window, please.
Hey, is it something I said? You thinking about being single again?
Actually, I am practicing.
You're practicing being single. Oh, sad.
I woke up this morning and I said, I'm gonna find something that really scares me and go after it.
Oh, that sounds boring. Hey, pass this down, thanks.
The last time I drove on a highway, I was 16. And I had to pull over after 5 minutes because I was having like a total panic attack.
Well, I think practicing in a drive-thru is a brilliant idea. Super light traffic. Oh, grab that bag.
So that's what we're gonna do. We are gonna drive on a highway, or see how close we can get.
Great. Just pull out of here and try not to kill everything.
Step 1, find a situation that scares you. I mean, actually scares you. Something that's gonna give you all the feels, you know? Like in this case.
Fast food.
No, driving in a car and even thinking of getting on the highway.
You know what they say about thinking. Less is more.
No one says that. Step 2, move toward that thing. Get all that distress going.
I know I tend to poo-poo everything you do because you have the most asinine ideas on the planet, and I'm not in love with this theory, but this practicing thing could actually kill you.
Step 3, acknowledge that doubt and distress and discomfort. Thanks, acknowledged.
Over 30,000 people die in highway motor accidents every year. You know this. You looked it up.
I step back and acknowledge that it's happening. Wow, this is harder than I thought it would be.
It's not hard. It's just stupid.
Step 4, welcome what's happening. This is exactly what I want. This is what I'm practicing for. Thanks, bro.
Don't do that. Don't thank me. You're doing this to yourself.
Step 5,
Step 112.
give yourself a motivational or instructional message like, good work, keep it up, Susan.
You're talking to yourself, Susan.
Focus on the road, Susan.
Take an Uber, Susan.
Or you can ask anxiety something totally crazy like, hey, my heartbeat's a little weak. You wanna turn that beat up?
This is the actual sound of your actual heart trying to explode out of your actual chest.
So you can't make it stronger then?
You're really doing this.
We're really doing this. Step 6, go back to the task. And I score a point!
What?
A point in our competition.
For doing what exactly?
Like, my hand's trembling a little bit, right? So I can say something like, I want this out loud, or cool, thanks man, you wanna make my hand shake more? As soon as I go back to what I'm doing, I get a point. Ding! Killing this!
Amazon can deliver anything in like 12 minutes. Why would you ever want to leave your house?
Because I want to.
30,000 people per year.
I'm starting to breathe a little faster now, okay. Come on, you gotta ramp it up. Just make it so I'm suffocating. Boom!
This isn't a real game.
Oh, it's real.
Football is a real game. You win something. It means something. You're not winning anything.
I win driving on highways. That's huge for me. I win a vacation somewhere I can fly to. I win not having to make up excuses about why I'm staying home instead of going out with my friends. I win trusting someone enough to have a relationship with them. That means something. I win my life back.
And money.
There's no money.
Well, yeah, but you cash in the points.
No, there's just no money. Okay, here's the highway. Man, my stomach is flipping out right now. But this is what I signed up for. I want to do this. Let's do this. Oh, okay, this is hard. I am noticing.
You know, people die from airbags. Like, the airbags actually kill them.
That's hilarious. I need this. Give me another one.
God, I hate this.
I know, but I want this.
Excellent, excellent videos. There's like a set of 6 of them, and so very useful to, again, just share with your clients to help them see what we're trying to do. So that's noiseinyourhead.com. Other treatment strategies, the first 3, we will start with that, especially if somebody has limited insight. And so we're analyzing beliefs, checking probability versus and responsibility, because a lot of times clients with OCD have an overestimation of threat. They think that it's far greater likelihood of a problem or likelihood of probability than it is. And so we are going to challenge that, but we don't continue to do that over and over because that can become part of a compulsion. But it is helpful for clients to have that initial analyzing and challenging of beliefs. Reframing intrusive thoughts, instead of seeing them as really disturbing and as something I can't tolerate, or as the thought as being meaning that it equals an action, we're reframing that, we're changing that, helping them to start seeing that just because we have thoughts doesn't mean we have an action. That just like the intrusive thoughts study, everybody has intrusive thoughts, so we're starting to reframe that. We might examine the evidence. I have clients oftentimes, I'll say, I was going to go on one, but to examine the evidence, that we have them go test out the reality of it. That we can have them face all of the ways that they can start to get cancer, and then to test if they really do. Do the opposite. So OCD is always setting up a rule that we're having to follow, right? It's telling us that we have to wash our hands after we touch the doorknob. It's telling us that I might have thrown something away and I've lost it forever, so I have to go through the trash. I'm doing the opposite of whatever OCD is telling me to do. Now we're starting to get more into the exposure. Behavior experiments, we're going to expose ourselves and see, that's what I was just talking about, and the ERP, which is exposure response prevention. If we can see the ERP as a game, this is fabulous, especially with kids, then it helps them to want to start to try to face the OCD. If they get points every time that they do, and I encourage my clients to set up rewards for themselves. If you face really tough stuff, then you really allow yourself to give yourself a reward, much like we would with exercising. I'm going to get this new item if I am consistent with following my exercise routine. And it's the same thing if they're applying the ERP that they can build in a reward system. Something else I like to use, they have the little click or the little token points that she gets. I will often have clients get a clicker, like a golf clicker. This one you can put actually on your finger. It's a little finger clicker, and it's just every time that I'm facing the OCD, every time I'm facing the fear, and I'm not responding with a compulsion, I get a point. And it is very motivating because clients want to get more and more points, sort of beat your own score from the day before. If it was with kids, you could certainly build in a reward too. If they did it a certain amount of times, that you're helping encourage them in the right direction. So exposure response prevention, that's really the crux, and what I would say even is the whole foundation of what we're wanting to move toward. But all of what we've laid out is imperative for us to get to this place. We do need insight before we start with exposure, because if clients don't believe that their thought is, they don't have some insight to seeing that it is obsessive, that it is excessive, we're not going to have much compliance with them following through. It's not don't do, but rather do differently. And so, for instance, with the doorknob, we're teaching them what to do instead of going to the bathroom and washing their hands. Much like what in the video, we're going back to the task at hand, but she's not trying to get rid of the thought. She's not trying to think, don't think it, don't think it. Instead, she's hearing the 33,000 accidents every single day. Okay, and I'm going back to the task at hand. I'm pulling onto the highway. We can give assurance one time. So when a client, I will often tell them, I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do. So I'm not having my clients, I've heard some horrible stories of things that therapists have asked clients to do, and I think, I would never do that. For instance, licking a toilet bowl, and I'm thinking, I would never do that. And so I'm not, and I will tell them that I'm not going to ask them to do something that I would not do right along with them. We want to set up guidelines before, during, and after. That's very important because otherwise our ERP can become ineffective. For instance, if a client touches the door and they're facing that exposure by touching the doorknob, they're starting to face the fear that they could have germs and get HIV, but instead they're standing there, or they're sitting there with their hands in their lap and they're waiting for the moment that they can wash after they leave the office. Relearning is not taking place. What's being learned is if I wait long enough, I can then go wash my hands. Instead, we're touching the doorknob, we're thinking, okay, I might have HIV, and now I'm touching it all over my person, so I can't get rid of it. I can't get it off. And then what they're going to do after. So when you leave the office and after you've now faced it, then what's the next step? Like, when do you get to wash again? And so we're setting up guidelines for that, of the exposure before, during, and after. That becomes really important. It's very easy in therapy, I think, to get caught into the reassurance. Clients will ask and ask and ask, and sometimes I'm a little slow maybe on my uptake to be realizing that they're really getting reassurance by what they're asking me, and I keep responding to the same thing. So we want to give assurance once and then move on. And then when clients ask again to say, that sounds like you're seeking reassurance, I'd encourage you to work on facing it. And they're learning to tolerate uncertainty. If clients are having panic attacks, oftentimes it means that we're moving up too fast. We're setting too high of a standard of hitting a trigger, and that really isn't affecting, relearning is not really taking place, because when we're in a panic mode, it's hard for any one of us to learn. So we start by building a hierarchy for ERP, and we're going to take, going back to the assessment that we've done, we're going to take the list of triggers and the obsessions and start building a hierarchy from it. And so then we take the list of triggers and we're going to assign them units of distress. So on a 0 to 100, how distressed are you when you face these things? We're wanting to start somewhere in the middle, about a 40 to 60, because we don't want to set them up for failure. At the same time, we want them to start learning that they can face something and face it successfully with it. So we're kind of constantly pushing the boundary without making it intolerable that they don't return or that it's not effective. I will sometimes tease with my clients too, just to lighten it a little bit, because I say, I know treatment is tough, because every time I set the bar here and you meet it, and then I'm going to raise the bar and you're going to meet it, and then you raise the bar and you're going to meet it, and so it is really tough, and just even acknowledging that for them is so helpful. It's really useful if you can practice ERP in the session. And so getting creative of how to practice it in the session, and so I'll talk about that in just a few minutes, but that it really helps, because it seems so cut and dry to me of how you do ERP, but as soon as we start applying it, clients, it gets confusing for them sometimes, or it gets muddied. We have to get creative in establishing steps as well, because we want to make sure that we're, like clients will sometimes set up their hierarchy and have a whole bunch of them that are at a 80, and we want to be able to break those down and set up easier steps as well. So things like if a client was telling me that to touch a doorknob would create an 80 subjective units of distress, then we might think of things like having them touch the doorknob with a Kleenex and then contaminate everything with the Kleenex. Trying to think of other ones that I've done just recently, but we really are trying to break it down into something that fits in more in the 40 to 60 range that they're willing to start to work to face. And we don't want to move up the hierarchy list until we've gotten response prevention. So if clients are still doing some kind of response prevention, then we want to stay on that level instead of adding a new one, because they've not really overcome it. So I have a client that has has had great difficulty leaving their house or going outside without doing any of the compulsions once they return. So they can make it to my office, but if after they've come to my office, they have to do a whole routine of changing their clothes, showering, cleaning everywhere that they have touched as they've gone back into their house. And so we've just started that they've been able to go outside on their front step. And they've gone out on the front step, and our goal for them for this last week was for them to go out there for 4 times for 2 minutes each time. They came back and recently and told me that they did do it. They went out there, but they could only stay 1 minute. Okay, we're not moving forward yet because they've not really stopped the response prevention. That's huge success in my mind, and so I'm being a cheerleader of that, of going, that's excellent. We're moving in the right direction, but we're not there. So I'm not increasing that goal to something else for the next week. And you want to pick one obsession and stop all compulsions. We will have far better success if we pick one thing that we're working on and working on stopping all of the compulsions in that one thing than we will if we jump around or we pick multiple obsessions or multiple things they're facing, but they're still doing compulsions here and there. So for instance, I would much rather have a client just touching my doorknob in my office and not wash or do a hand sanitizer or any kind of cleansing routine and then work on just that and be successful than trying to touch all doorknobs and they're still washing part of the time or they're still using hand sanitizer. If we can have them face one thing or one obsession at a time. If some clients are really motivated and will face several, and that's fine, but we want to make sure that we're stopping all compulsions because if we're keeping compulsions going, we're keeping that loop of OCD going.